1 notes. This is the same pages as pages 207 through 220 in your textbook. The first 5 pages is the notes, and then everything else is the assignment. If you choose to do the assignment in the textbook, you will do the problems and then take a picture of each page and upload into Schoology. If you do it on HRW, you do not have to do the paper assignments, but you do need to do these notes. So let's look at the problems. So we're talking about a real world situation. Miners are exploring 90 feet underground. So the miners ascend in an elevator at a constant rate over a period of 3 minutes until they reach the surface. The coordinate grid, the horizontal axis, represents the time in minutes from when the miners started to ascend to when they reach the surface, and y is the distance from the surface that they are at. So x and y is the time and the depth underground. So what point are the miners at if they are descending? Well, at time 0, they are at negative 90. We know that because they were 90 feet underground. So we put our point right there. What point represents the miner's elevation when they have ended their ascension? In other words, they have reached the surface. How much time did it go? Well, it took 3 minutes until they reached the surface, so they're at 3. And then we connect the dots using a slide rule, a ruler, or just a piece of paper. So at what point did it cross the x-axis? It crosses the y-axis at 0, negative 90. And when does it cross the x-axis? Well, the x-axis is the horizontal, and it crosses at 3, 0. Okay, so page 2. The y-intercept of the graph is the y-coordinate where the graph intersects the y-axis. It is very important to note that the x-coordinate of the point is always 0. So when you're looking for the y-intercept, your x will be equal to 0. When you're looking for the x-intercept, your y will equal to 0. So that's very important. Those are two different, very distinct pieces of information, and they will help us even if we don't know a second point. If we know the y-intercept, we have a second point. We just have to write it that way. We'll see those later. So they're showing us at 3x minus 2y is 6. If we replace 0 for y and solve for x, we end up with 3x. We end up 3x equals 6, divide by 3, and we end up with 2. So that's how they got that answer. We do the same thing on our problem here. We have negative 5x plus 6y. We place 0 in for y. Those cancel. And then we do negative 5x equals 60. Divide by negative 5. And x is negative 12. That's how that came about. On the other side, when we want the y-intercept, we replace it with 0. X was 0. And we solve for, that should be y. So we take that away. 60 divided by 6 gives us 10. Okay, so I want you to do problem 3. I'm going to do number 4 to give you one more example, working all the way out. So again, divide your paper in half. While I'm doing number 4, you do number 3 as you're doing it. So negative 6 times 0 minus 8y is equal to 24. So because I replaced x for 0, I'm looking for my y-intercept. You don't have to do it in the same order they did it. So negative 8y is equal to 24. We divide by negative 8. That leaves the y-intercept as negative 3. Now we do the x. This time, I wanted a different color. Okay, so this time we're going to do 0 in for y because we're looking for x. That goes away, so negative 6x is 24. divide by -6. So our x-intercept is -4. So that's really all you have to do. Okay, so make sure you do problem 3, and then I will have the answer here in a second for you to check. Okay, so our x-intercept here is 28 divided by 8, and our y-intercept is 4. Now that's not in reduced form, but that's okay. We were just wanting to make sure we can get it. Okay, so let's look at a couple of more examples. They have a train that leaves New Mexico and travels 4,500 miles to get to the Sandia Peak. So it starts at 4,500 miles away from Sandia. And when does it reach Sandia? That's what they're asking here. So when it reaches Sandia, Sandia is at 0 distance away. So we put 0 in for y, solve for x, and we find out it's at 15 seconds or 15 minutes. The y-intercept is the distance away from the peak, and that's at 4,500. So we'll do the same thing problem with the hot air balloon. We're going to set the 0 equal to the equation that they gave us, solve for x, and we get 30. And if you notice that's where the x-intercept is, and our y-intercept is at 7,750. If we put 0 in for 750, for x here, we get 750, and that's the height. Actually, yeah, that's the height. Sorry. That was the height of the air balloon when it was still in the air. 30 minutes is how long it took to descend, to reach the ground. Stupid program. Come on. Thank you. Okay, so I want you to do number 6. Same process. All we're doing is trying to find out what the temperature is when Celsius is zero. All that's saying is replace 0 in for y. And then replace it in for x and find the x-intercepts of how long it would take. Okay? Okay, the last problem is talking about using those x-intercepts to draw our line. Okay, so if we have an equation, it doesn't matter in what form it is, we can put 0 in for x and for y, solve for the other variable, and then we can plot our dots and draw a line. So the only thing that is special about this is it's asking us to put it in standard form, which just means put it in x plus y plus equals a number form. All we have to do is move the x around by subtracting 12x, and then we do the same thing. But you actually do not have to do this step to be able to find your y and x-intercepts. This just makes it a little cleaner to look at. That's all that does. Okay, so one more example, and we are going to find the x and y intercepts. So all you have to do is, again, replace 0 for y and solve for x. And replace x for 0 for x and solve for y. Now I'll give you a hint. Your answers are already on the graph. So go ahead and tell me what is your x-intercept and what is your y-intercept. So our x-intercept is -6, and our y-intercept is at -10. Okay? All right. So if you are going to do the paper version of the assignment, you would do the highlighted problems, which are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 16, 15, 17, 19, and 21. Or you can do the 3-1 HRW assignment. I'm also going to include an image here of the odd even problems being done. So I'm going to take a brief picture of each one of these and go ahead and include it so you can see how each one of those problems would be completed. Notice that nothing is different. All you're doing is replacing 0 in for x and then 0 in for y and solving for the other one. Okay, that is all of the questions.